What's up, Adam?
Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
I'm doing well. Okay. Can I get right into it?
Yeah, that's why I'm running this live. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. So, prove to me that child marriage is not allowed in Islam. This is like super obvious. If you look at Quran, the Quran, and actually read it in chapter 4, verse 6, it
Hmm.
says, "Test the orphans until they reach marriageable age. Then if you perceive in them sound judgment, or rushd does not have full judgment, is not fit for marriage responsibilities." Look at Quran chapter 30, verse 21. He created for you spouses that you may find tranquility in them. So that tells you marriage is supposed to be involving of emotional compatibility and mutual comfort. Okay. If you look at the hadith, even consent is required.
Can we go
It
just
says,
one point at a time? Because I have questions.
sure, last one. From
Sure, go
Sahih
ahead.
al-Bukhari, right? And Sahih Muslim, it says a previously married woman should not be married without her command, and a virgin should not be married without her permission. Okay, this is like 3 points. I can give you more points, but go ahead.
Sure. So, first point is chapter 4, verse 6. Okay. Can you tell me what that verse is about?
Well, you want to know what the chapter is about or just the verse?
Well,
Because
the
I'm talking
verse,
specifically about the verse. So when it
yeah.
says, test the orphans until they reach a marriageable age, then
Mm-hmm.
if you perceive in them sound judgment or
Mm-hmm.
rushd,
Mm-hmm.
release their property. The key point for this
Mm-hmm.
is that marriageable age is linked to rushd, which is mental
Okay.
maturity and sound judgment.
Good. Good. So, chapter 4, verse 6 is about giving orphans their wealth, correct? It's about wealth, like their inheritance. Yeah or no? Are you there?
I'm like listening to your explanation here.
I'm not explaining, I'm asking.
What are you asking?
That if chapter 4, verse 6 is about distributing wealth to the orphans and how to do that.
So I don't understand because I'm
Is it
telling you
or is it
I'm
not?
telling you that the debate, right, the argument from this logic
Mm-hmm.
is if Islam is saying you can't even control your own money without maturity, how can you control marriage, which is more serious?
Understood.
That also requires
That's like, I
maturity.
get your point, right? I just want to go one point at a time, brother.
Sure, go for it.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So, do you agree that chapter 4, verse 6 is about distributing wealth to orphans?
I'm not agreeing nor disagreeing. I'm not sure.
You're not
You know,
sure?
I don't know. You can tell
Okay,
me.
let me look it up, okay? Give me a second. Let me just pull up
No,
ChatGPT.
no problem, no problem.
Do you know what the asbab nuzul is, or
Sorry?
do you know what the asbab nuzul is?
I have no idea what that is.
Are you Sunni?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you might know it in English. Do you know what the reason of revelation is?
The reason of revelation?
Yeah. So go to altafsir.com. Do you have a computer in front of you?
Sure.
Okay, this is a pretty cool website, okay? When you go to altafsir.com, you can go to Quran and recitations. Click on that. And then you go to chapter um, 65. No, I'm sorry. I'm on 65, verse 4. Go to chapter 4, Al-Nisa, and go to chapter 6, right? And then you click on reasons for revelation. And you'll see exactly what the verse is about. It's right there. So it says, this was revealed about Thabit ibn Rafa'a and his uncle. Rafa'a died when his son Thabit was very young. The uncle of Thabit went to the Messenger of Allah, Allah bless him and give him peace, and said, "The son of my brother is an orphan under my care. what is lawful for me from his wealth. So he's asking, what can I take from him? Or like, what is lawful for me of his wealth? And what should I give him back his wealth? And so Allah, exalted is He, revealed this verse. So this is the reason for the revelation. And the overwhelming majority of verses in the Quran have this. Some of them just have them by chapters, like the reason the chapter was revealed. So if you can't find it for a specific verse, you can go a few verses before or after, and then eventually within a chapter, you'll find a reason for revelation. So this is telling me right now, right, that chapter 4, verse 6 is about how to distribute wealth, right, to an orphan, which is cool. Now, this is just one source, right? So, and this is why I'm running the live, because I'm tired of like the fighting that happens on this app, right? It's ridiculous. So that's why I'm giving the opportunity for Muslims to come up here and we could have the discussion. So to take one source and base my opinion is crazy work, right? Because we know Islam doesn't work that way. There's a consensus, there's law, there's philosophy behind the law,
Can
there's
I
a
can I
system. Hold
can I
on, there's
cut
a
you?
system. So
Okay.
what I want you to do is when it comes to like the jurisprudence, which is the consensus, like I want you to show me where chapter 4 verse 6 is applied in the in Islamic law when it comes to marriage. Just marriage, not orphans and their wealth. I get that this verse is about that.
It's okay. What I'm not saying is the actual application. Okay, I'm gonna speak
Okay.
about like what you just mentioned about. I mean, I'm gonna reference Islamic scholars, the most classical ones, and I'm gonna attack it from that point of view. But this verse is just specifically telling you that like the word roshd, right? It means sound judgment and mental maturity, responsibility, like good decision making. Okay, and you need that, okay, to be able to manage money, any monetary value. This is like even in today's world. And given that marriage is way more important than that, that is automatically a requirement. But what I'm saying is, like, for example, do you know the classical Islamic scholars like Ibn Kathir, Al-Tabari?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay. So in regards for the previous conversation that you were having with the gentleman about the age of Aisha,
Yeah,
uh,
and honestly, I
she
don't even
had
care about that too much. For me, what matters is like a consensus, right? How is it applied, right? I don't want to
okay.
take a
I'll
one-off
tell you. I'll tell you.
situation
In the hadith,
and
in
make
the
that
hadith,
about the
right?
topic.
Have
Yeah.
have you have you heard of Sunan
Ibn
Ibn?
Majah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you hear about this
Give
one
me
in the
the
hadith?
hadith
It
number, I could
says,
look it up.
yeah, it says there should be neither harm nor reciprocating harm.
Yeah.
La darar wala dirar. This is like a foundational legal principle in Islam.
Yeah.
Because the argument is if marriage causes physiological harm
Yeah.
or physical harm to, either or, man or woman, it's not allowed.
So
And
I know that, so I've read and studied that the physical harm is spoken about, right? Like, for example, do you know what a fistula is? I just don't want to go into too much detail, so maybe you could look it up if you don't know.
okay, physical harm,
Like a
what'd you say?
fistula.
Fistula? I have no idea.
Look it up, please.
How do you even
So,
spell that?
I think it's Fistula.
Okay, what am I looking at here, bro?
Okay. So that's what happens to little girls when their body's not prepared for childbirth or intercourse, right? It becomes one. That's, you could do your own research. That's spoken about, right? So I could pull you up sources where Islamic scholars use this as an example that this should not happen, and in the event that it does, there's a certain amount of money to be paid to the family of the girl that was destroyed, unfortunately.
What? No, no, no.
So
You need to
physical
prove.
harm.
You need to prove
I
that
will.
there is
I will.
evidence that
Yeah.
child marriage is allowed in Islam. I gave you
Okay. Okay.
two hadiths, three verses where child
I'm getting there.
marriage is obviously,
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
okay,
Okay. Thank you.
no worries.
So, just for the example that you brought up, I'm agreeing with you that the physical harm, I've read about it, I've studied it. It is stated, and a fistula is used as an example, right? In the event that this should happen, this is what the husband is to do to restore this girl. Okay. So I understand when you're saying that, okay?
So
And I
you're
will
saying
bring
in
you,
the event
I'll bring you that
event it
sources.
happens, you're saying in the event it happens, right? There's a proceeding of what you should do to accommodate that, but you're not saying that why it's happening or is it allowed to
Oh, I'll tell
happen,
you
right?
why it's happening.
Is it allowed to
Because
happen?
a
Does it
little
say,
girl is
oh, it's
being
allowed
slept
to
with.
happen? Like I need a verse,
Sure.
Habibti. I need I need
No,
I
I'm going
need
to
some
bring you
hadith.
Islamic law. I'm going to bring you jurisprudence. Don't worry about it. I'm also going to bring you the four madhabs, right? What I was just trying to say and give you an example is when you talk about harm, I get it. I've read that the physical harm is something that I read, and a fistula is used as an example. But I've never read anything about, like you said, psychological harm.
Yeah?
I've never read that. Can you show me where it says that? And I'll bring you my verses about the physical harm.
لا ضرر ولا ضرار. It literally means exactly that the marriage causes physical or psychological harm. It's not allowed.
Okay.
The thing is how okay, I agree with you to a certain point
I
where
need the
hold on.
consensus, right? I
This is
already
where I agree
told you
with
that
you.
Islam has a system, right?
Let me tell you where I agree with you
Hold
though.
on. Listen, listen. I know that this is a crazy topic, okay? And I'm not trying to put you on the defense. I just want to have the discussion, okay? So stop interrupting because I hate that and I don't want to freak out on you. I literally do not want this to be drama, okay?
Okay, I'm waiting. I'm
Okay,
waiting.
thank you. You can go to Islam and I can give you one-offs. That's why I said I don't even want to focus on Aisha, bro. That's just like a one-off situation, even though
I brought her up one
highly,
time.
yeah,
I brought
no,
her up
even
one
though I
time.
highly disagree with it, I don't care. And
She
not that I
wasn't
don't
mine.
care about Aisha. I just don't care because what I'd rather speak on is how it's applied, right? The consensus. What does Islam allow? That's the topic of my discussion. Not so much Muhammad, right? I don't care. So when you're saying something, I don't want you to just bring me one hadith. I want you to show me in Islamic law how this is applied and how little girls are protected if they are. That's what I want to talk about.
Okay, okay. A
Yeah.
couple points. How little girls are protected. Number one, they have their father. Number two, in the law, it disallows child marriages. And I like brought up two hadiths for you and three verses in the Quran where you can make that logical consensus. I need to know from your standpoint. I even brought up the classical scholars that, you know, 99% of the population of Muslims, they'll follow this person or this person or that person, right? I need from you a verses that it says it's allowed. I'm still waiting on that.
Yeah, that's not a problem. And again, I didn't want to make this live about that, but if you want to have the discussion, like we can. We can go to the four madhabs, right? And how we see this being actualized in the Islamic world, like even today, right? Um, let's talk about it. So I'm just going to read a couple of things for you, okay? And I'm going to tell you where I got it from. And I have a few websites that I've gotten this understanding from. And then also, we're going to go to Sharia books as well, okay? So the first one I'm just going to read off just because it's an easy read. It's from islamqa.info, okay? And just so that you could also look it up, the question is 22442, okay? There's two different questions here. The first one is about acting in movies. This is the second question. Why Islam allowed to marry children, and then in parentheses it says girls, of age below 10 without their permission? It is said that in the case of children, it requires the concern of their parents only. I also know it requires to get the permission in the case of adults. Actually, marriage has to take place between the persons who have even a little maturity. But in the case of children, it not happen. Can you justify this ruling of Islam in child marriage? So the answer to this question somebody posed is marrying a young girl before she reaches the age of adolescence is permitted in Sharia. Indeed, it was narrated that there was scholarly consensus on this point. Allah says, and then it says in parentheses, interpretation of the meaning, and those of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses, for them iddah, the prescribed waiting period, if you have doubt about their periods, is 3 months. And for those who have no courses, they are still immature, their iddah, prescribed period, is 3 months likewise. They're getting this from 65 verse 4. So they're laying down the foundation of why they believe this to be true. And they're using the Quran to do it, right? They're using chapter 65 verse 4. And then they go to something that was narrated by Al-Bukhari, 4840 is the hadith number, and Muslim 1422. It says in this verse, we see that Allah has made, okay, so this continues to go into 65:4. It says in this verse, we see that Allah has made the iddah in the case of a divorce of a girl who does not have periods because she is young and has not yet reached puberty, 3 months. This clearly indicates that Allah has made this a valid marriage. It was not, and this is the hadith numbers that I gave you earlier. It was narrated from Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, that the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, married her when she was 6 years old. He consummated the marriage with her when she was 9, and she stayed with him for 9 years. So,
Sajida, wallah, you're bringing up a lot of points. Can we go one by one,
just
please?
just 2 points. So that was the question about child marriage. And this is what they're using to say, yes, it's allowed. They use chapter 65, verse 4, the Quran.
Okay.
And they also use Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. I don't know if you know anything about Islam QA, right? But these are like the grand muftis in Saudi.
Okay. Let me speak, please. Let me speak.
Sure.
Okay. So let's take this one by one. Okay. First, I agree with you in the terms of in the world, even back then, there are people that are messed up and allow child marriages, but this is not what Islam allows, okay? You are misinterpreting the chapter 65 verse 4.
I just read.
No, let me explain.
Brother.
Let me explain.
Okay,
When
so
you were talking about
hold on
iddah,
one second. Hold on.
Okay, you're cutting me off.
No, when you're going to address the sources that I bring, you're not going to tell me that I'm misinterpreting or misrepresenting, because I'm just reading. You can go ahead and make a point, but don't say that I'm misunderstanding everything or anything.
Your conclusion is what I'm talking about, not the exact verse. The verse that you read is fine. The verse that you read is fine. But when you're talking about iddah, it's talking about divorce law. It's not talking about child marriages, okay? It's not talking about, oh, you have to wait for them 3 periods. When you're going through a divorce in Islam, okay, the woman has to wait a period of like 3 menstrual cycles for her to be like fully divorced and I think ready for, like, if she wants to get married again or not.
Yeah, obviously, because
that's what iddah is.
I know, it states it in the Quran, right? Chapter 2, verse 228, that women are not allowed to hide what's in their wombs. And I agree with that. It's honorable, right? Because you have to know the paternity of your child. So I don't have a problem with iddah. It's actually honorable, right? Before you move on, you have to make sure that you're not pregnant. I get that. And then in chapter 33, verse 49, it says that if you haven't touched her, then there's no iddah necessary. It says that. So if the marriage is not consummated, there's no iddah. So chapter 65:4 is speaking about divorce, which means that It's talking about wives that are married that are going through a divorce. Okay? Chapter 65, verse 4 has 3 categories of women in there. The second category are ones that are too young and have not yet menstruated, which means their marriages were consummated, which means because they're not getting their periods, they can't wait 3 menstrual cycles, so they have to wait 3 months. And that is why the scholars of Islam are answering these questions, like this very specific question, using chapter 65, verse 4. I didn't interpret it. I just read it to you, brother.
Okay, I mean, I don't know what else to say because I already explained to you very clearly how Islam disallows
Can you show me?
any such child. Yes, okay. Do you know what Sharia law is?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to clarify this. So I call them Muslim countries, but they're not like fully Muslim countries. Okay, but I'll say modern countries like Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Qatar, Kuwait, all of these Arab dominant places, so people call Muslim countries, right? Even can you tell me why their countries set ages of marriage like 16, 18 and up, and then also it requires court approval, and also they block harmful marriages, because Sharia also, requires maturity, consent, and no harm. All these
Can you
principles
show
that I
me
brought
that?
up by the classical scholars, these principles, how do you refute these
Can
principles?
you
I don't
show me that?
understand. Show you what?
You keep saying maturity, this, that. Just show it to me, brother.
Show you maturity?
Okay, so because you want to laugh, I'll just stop being nice and read this. So it says, after they use the 65:4 and the Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim hadith, they go on to say, the fact that it is permissible to marry a young girl does not mean that it is permissible to have intercourse with her. Rather, that should not be done until she's able for it. For that reason, the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, delayed the consummation of his marriage to Aisha. Al-Nawawi said, with regard to the wedding party of a young married girl at the time of consummating the marriage, if the husband and the guardian of the girl agree upon something that will not cause harm to the young girl, then that may be done. If they disagree, then Ahmad and Abu Ubaid said that once a girl reaches the age of 9, then that marriage may be consummated even without her consent. But that does not apply in the case of who is younger. Now, Malik, Al-Shafi'i, and Abu Hanifa said the marriage may be consummated when the girl is able for intercourse, which varies from one girl to another, so no age limit can be set. This says nothing to me about her psychology, her mind, her maturity. It's just talking about when she could actually handle the intercourse. And then it also says that if she is 9 and her guardian, her wali, her wakil says she's not ready for it, and the husband is saying she is ready for it, the husband has the authority to go and take her and consummate even without the little girl's consent, which is
Okay,
absolute
you say
gravy,
you say
right?
she was 9, right? What's the name of her older sister?
This is what I'm reading
Her
here is not
older.
talk.
Okay, let me explain one thing, right? Really
Wait,
quick,
hold on.
one
No,
minute
so no,
tops,
no, no,
1 minute tops.
no,
No,
no. I will give you the minute. I promise you. Okay? I
you've been
promise you.
talking. Let me cut.
But you gotta let me finish my point. And there's
Okay,
more. There's more
finish.
to read. Like I want to do justice to the sources, right?
You're starting to preach at this point.
Okay, go. Then fine, go.
1 minute tops. Okay. Aisha radiallahu anha had an older sister named Asma. Okay, Asma. She is reported to be about 10 years older than Aisha. Okay. Asma said to die around 100 years old in 73 AH. that would put Aisha's birthday or birth earlier than the hadith imply. Okay? This means that if you do the math correctly, she would have been 17, 18, or 19 years old. So when you say 9 years old, as of like today, how we know 9-year-old little girls are, little boys are, it's totally incorrect.
Okay. So can you do me a favor? Can you do me a favor?
It depends on what the favor is.
I'm gonna need you to dedicate your entire life, right, to telling the Islamic world that they're wrong on this. I'm gonna need you to go to Saudi, and I'm gonna need you to protest the MBS to get rid of every single dirty sheikh that came up with this, because this is not me. You're telling me that I'm wrong. You're telling me that I'm wrong for assuming that Aisha was 9. Brother, I'm reading you what the sheikhs are saying. I'm reading you the Hanafis and the Hanbalis and the Shafis and all of this. I'm not telling you this. I'm not telling you you should do this. I'm reading to you what Islam is telling you that you should do to a 9-year-old girl. And they're using the very hadith that you just condemned as a reference point. The very Quran, chapter 65:4, that you say the world is misunderstanding as a reference point. Brother, I'm not the problem. It is your classical scholars, it is your hadith, it is your asbab al-nuzul, it is your Islamic jurisprudence that is the problem.
I mean, I don't know what else to say anymore. I brought up very clear
You
hadiths
didn't
and
bring
very clear
nothing. You
verses
brought
to you,
nothing.
and you just ignored them, I
Anything that
guess.
you brought has nothing to do with Islamic law.
The
And
Quran
let's go to, you
verses.
know what? Because I'm in the
Verses
mood.
of the Quran. That's
Yeah,
not
verses of the
valid.
Quran. Oh, let's go to chapter 65, verse 4. And
Why do
like I
you think
told you,
Islam allows
Sani
child
wahda,
marriage? This is
Sani wahda. Because I
ridiculous.
don't think, I'm just reading. I'm not thinking that Islam allows it. I'm reading what Islam is saying. So let's go to, I gave you a good tool earlier. I'm very friendly. I share my sources. I'm at altafsir.com,
You're
chapter
not friendly.
65.
You mute me and you talk too
Yeah, because you're
much.
interrupting me.
Now
Not
you
gonna happen on my
interrupted me
life.
more.
Listen, I opened this live so that I can have discussions. I hate being interrupted, brother. Like I told you from the door, I don't want this to be like no animosity, no hostility, no fighting. We're just having a discussion. But you can't cut off the host, bro. You're in my house. So chapter
I am
65,
not in
verse.
your house, with all due
Okay, then bye.
respect. Bye. Ma
Have a
salama.
good day.
Yeah,
Masalam.
you
Bye.
too.
God bless you. So chapter 65, verse 4. I'm at altafsir.com and I'm going to read the reason for revelation. Okay? This is why chapter 65, verse 4 was revealed. And for such of your women as despair of menstruation, 65:4 said muqattil, when the verse, women who are divorced shall wait, keeping themselves apart, Khalid ibn al-Numan ibn Qais al-Nasri said, O Messenger of Allah, what is the waiting period of the woman who does not menstruate and the woman who has not menstruated yet? And what is the waiting period of the pregnant woman? And so Allah exalted His He revealed the verse. Abu Ishaq al-Muqri informed us, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, and it gives you a whole bunch of names because like a, what is that? What do they call that? Like a link of narration, a chain of narration. There you go. When Abu Uthman Amir ibn Salim, who said, when the waiting period for divorced and widowed women was mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, Ubay ibn Kab said, O Messenger of Allah, some women of Medina are saying, there are other women who have not been mentioned. He asked them, and who are they? He said, those are those who are too young, such that they have not started menstruating yet, those who are too old, whose menstruation has stopped, and those who are pregnant. And so this verse, chapter 65:4, was revealed. In the history of why the verse was revealed, it clearly states that this verse is inquiring about little girls. Little girls.